Cheers and welcome to Chicago Reacts. My name is Lauren and today I am going to be reacting to Whiskey Tribes. A noob tastes the top 10 whiskeys for beginners. I'm curious to see what the top 10 whiskeys are for beginners. I have a feeling most of them I will like. Because, at least for me, the way to get people to like the whiskey is to get them to drink something smooth, something not too smoky, not too peaty. You want to get something very easy to drink, something that is, or something that's like a good mixer, perhaps, and like then you work your way down. Today I've got a front porch lemonade. I've used Bullet bourbon for it, because Bullet bourbon is not too expensive. That is my criteria a lot of the time, especially if I'm doing it for this. And now I don't really want to waste any more time. Let's begin and see what Whiskey Tribe calls the top 10 whiskeys and see how this new guy likes it.
Dude, you son of a...
That was...
Compose yourself, dude.
If you're experiencing like a really heavy burn, then we need to slow roll this. Rex is investigating something.
Whiskey is one of these things that it's just more enjoyable with friends. Whenever you can experience it with other people who are excited about it, they're interested in it. As often is the case, you don't necessarily have whiskey enthusiasts in your immediate circle right out of the gate.
So you gotta rectify that.
And in this video,
We're gonna be using the list that the tribe created
Yes.
of whiskey for beginners.
yeah, the top 10 list, Magnificent Bastards voted on a couple of years ago, the best whiskeys for beginners. We're gonna go through those and present them to a real-life whiskey beginner. What kind of whiskey experiences, what kind of whiskey history, what have you tried to date so far? What have you had whiskey-wise?
I've had Jameson, I've had Bullet, I've had Jack Daniels.
So the big giant
Jim
classic
Beam, yeah,
brands.
yeah.
Okay, so
What did you think?
Yeah.
I feel like they all kind of just taste the same, to be honest with you. I mean, they all taste the same with Coke, that's for sure.
Oh no! Yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it. And then there's certainly like Jameson by itself, like regular classic Jameson, I will like basically only drink as a shot or if it's mixed into something. Jameson Black, I will drink by itself. That one goes down way smoother. I haven't drank Jack or Jim in a long time. I will usually go for Bullet. Or again, Jameson if I'm going to be doing mixers, or if I'm going to just be drinking the whiskey, I will choose something like the cheapest option, I guess, often that I'll go for is like Four Roses. Small batch usually.
I think we just uncovered the issue here.
Yeah, I think we did.
So-
I'm gonna teach you some basics of whiskey, and then we're gonna work our ways through some of these
Right.
to figure out, one, can you tell the difference between these things?
Yeah.
And two, what direction do you prefer?
I suddenly got very concerned about how advanced the YouTube algorithm is.
Oh.
Because if it can read facial features, then it's going to see a whiskey channel introducing a 17-year-old lad to whiskey. Supposedly he's 24 years old.
Supposedly.
Rex, would you please
He does look like a baby. He does look like a baby.
bring over the Jameson, since Alex mentioned that was one of the things he's had before. What I want you to be doing with all of these whiskeys on smelling and tasting, right? So this is a really quick primer. When you take a whiskey, smell is the majority of taste. Right? So when you smell a whiskey, you're gonna take your glass and you wanna bring it in until it feels sharp to the nose and then back it off just a little. That's the right place for you to smell whiskey. If you open your mouth and breathe in through your mouth and nose at the same time, you'll help the alcohol vapors bypass your sinus cavity.
All right, so while he's nosing this, make sure you are answering.
Have you had anything to drink yet today, sir? Because it seems like maybe you have.
Dude, you son of a...
Next thing, when you take a sip of whiskey, don't just throw it down. And so there's a couple of ways to do this, but the first one I like to do is just take a sip and swallow it. And take about as much as you would drink if it was really hot coffee. If you're experiencing like a really heavy burn, then we need to slow roll this. Rex is investigating something.
Making sure he's doing it right.
Okay.
Swallowing correctly?
Yeah.
You would know about
Good.
that.
Hear the drummer get wicked.
Did you get high alcohol burn on that, or was
No,
it easy?
No, it was really easy.
Okay, good. So that means that's going to make everything else much easier. Now, when you're smelling these things and tasting them, what you want to ask yourself is, what does this remind me of?
I feel like it's a mix between like smoke and cinnamon. Is kind of what I'm.
Oh, interesting.
Kind of what I'm.
Okay, I'm going to jump straight to another category, and we're going to go straight into monkey shoulder.
Ooh, I do like a
Yeah,
monkey
let me
shoulder.
get you a water. How about that?
Just coffee? Is that a palate cleanser?
It can be, but we're going to stick with
What is in here? What did you do to this?
I like his cynicism and his paranoia. I'll drink to his mistrust. I'm also learning stuff about how you're supposed to imbibe whiskey. I usually just kind of drink it. Or sometimes I will, if I'm gonna have to be drinking a lot of it for a long period of time, I will mix it with something. But I do like monkey shoulder.
reset palate in between these. So do the same process. We're going to move a little more quickly, but each time I want you to smell it a little bit, think about what you're getting, then take your first sip and then smell it again. And what you're going to want to ask your brain is, how is this different?
I guess I'm having. I feel like I don't know. I don't have the knowledge of like the exact like flavors that go into whiskey.
No,
You won't. You
no.
won't. That's important.
That's important. And here's the thing. Whoever you're trying to get into whiskey, they very much need to understand that there's not a wrong way to taste or experience this.
No, absolutely.
It's basically the reference points that a person would draw from whenever they're giving tasting notes. If they haven't had those experiences, they don't have any reference points.
Right.
So it's going to be very hard for them to verbalize things the way that you, as a whiskey enthusiast, would be able to do just the very first sip, and
This
even
one's
on the
more
nose.
leathery.
Oh,
Yeah, for
interesting.
sure. Right on, right
So
on.
that's a little more of that malt musty note it could be, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit heavier, earthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's your Speyside malt must.
Right. And as you're doing this with your friend, they should feel like you're
Okay,
not
yeah.
the all-knowing whiskey guru.
No, you're
Right?
still
They
learning.
should feel like that you are doing this with them and exploring.
I wonder what that could be. It's important to know, Alex, you can't recall patterns you haven't established.
Right.
So you can't
That's a good point.
recall whiskey patterns from thin air. What direction did you prefer?
I like Jameson more.
Okay, good.
Jameson more.
So let's move straight into, let's go a little bit classic bourbon. So I hand that Buffalo Trace, it's right there in front of you. The difference is,
Oh, see, that's the thing. At least living here in Chicago, I see so much, for whatever reason, I see more Buffalo Trace and Tullamore Dew than I see of Jameson. So, like, I started drinking a lot more of both of those, like in college and when I was living in Baltimore, Jameson was where it was at. But then, like, various bars and stuff here seem to have a lot more Tullamore Dew. So that's where I kind of went. And then Buffalo Trace is kind of, for whatever reason, maybe it's just because of the places I've worked, Buffalo Trace and Tullamore Dew have always been sat right next to each other on the shelf. It's like they're just always right there. Everybody has both of those. Not everybody has Jameson these days. I don't know why, but I've been quite a few places that have Buffalo or Tullamore and no JMO.
with bourbon is immediately two big differences. One is the grain involved. It's going to be corn, and a lot more, and corn dominant with some rye spice and some malt barley. And then the biggest difference is going to be it's using a new charred oak barrel. Unlike Scotland and Ireland, where the barrels are going to have already been used before, so the barrel impact is a little bit lower.
Right.
Bourbon is going to have a heavy barrel, woody impact, which is going to result in some flavors you might find presenting as dense vanillas, dense cherries, and it'll be much sweeter. In that
I was
sense.
gonna say it actually smells quite a bit sweeter than these last two.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think an important point to make is we aren't drinking along with Alex because dry week, but having that experience, the same experience with your buddy, your family member. One of the more interesting things that happens whenever you're tasting whiskey is you're trying to figure it out, trying to put a pin in what a specific note is. Then somebody else will say something, and immediately that's it.
Yeah.
It's like, how could I not have pinned down that I'm tasting cinnamon?
Yeah, that does happen. I will probably be doing a quasi-dry week next week, but it's not going to be a full dry week because Riot Fest, so...
Of course it's cinnamon.
Now, first let me ask you, what did you get on that one?
I don't want to just say like flavor, but
More robust.
definitely darker than the last two.
Yeah, so that's
and
your wood impact.
more like explosive, I would say.
Like more dense.
Yeah.
More saturation to the
So
flavor.
notice that in the first
Yeah.
two, I didn't give him any tasting notes, but in this third one, I actually suggested some flavors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I was trying to do in that, and I do this regularly, is I try to give someone the reward feeling of recognizing something that's actually there, so they're not going totally blind
Right.
every single time.
Yeah, it's the difference, between trying to create out of the vacuum, right? Just pulling from the ether of your own experience.
Trying to recognize.
Yeah, or versus somebody saying, "Are you actually experiencing something that is akin to vanilla?" Holy crap, I am.
See, I also kind of like the fact that he clearly has, when he's been editing the videos, has listened to things that have been said on the videos. I said he's the video editor and hand model. Not sure if that's a joke or not, but like if he's editing their videos, he's clearly been paying attention to some of the words that they have used.
Let's kick into the bullet rye you have on the far right.
Bullet.
This one, the dominant grain is going to be rye, and think of it just like rye bread.
I do like a bullet rye. The one that I have today with my drink is a bullet bourbon, though.
Right, it's going to be more spicy, more herbal, kind of almost tea direction potentially.
Some people will use, when it comes to rye, it's not necessarily this one, it's kind of a lighter rye, but they'll use words like black licorice and anise.
On this one, tends to be more like eucalyptus.
Yeah.
And,
I was gonna say mint.
yeah, eucalyptus and mint was the second thing I was about to say. That's a pretty standard MGP flavor profile. Eucalyptus
This
and
one
mint.
burns the most for sure.
It's
Tastes like
spicy.
burning.
Let's move quickly. For the first time, we're going to introduce you to a little bit of smoke, but we're not going to do it with an Isla. We're going to do it with a mildly peated Highland malt.
I gotta fix this,
So this is Glenfiddich 12.
Glenfiddich.
This is a Highland malt, but it does have a little bit of peat smoke in it, which you may interpret either as smoke or your brain may interpret it as black pepper.
I want to hear what Alex has to say in terms of how is this comparing
Yeah.
to any of the other whiskeys so far.
I didn't realize about the black pepper thing. I'm not a huge fan of overly peated, like whiskeys and scotches, though.
This reminds me a little bit more of this one.
Good
Right,
recognition.
yeah.
That is the closest thing to it in
Yeah.
this lineup.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right on.
because it tastes more.
He's
it's
got
that
good-
kind of same
he's got
like
good taste.
leather undertone. Like
nice.
more
Leather
more-
undertone, and then the sweeter element, would you say that would be like a fruity sweetness or more of a floral sweetness?
Definitely floral for sure.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Wow, you're picking up floral on a lightly peated malt.
Yeah.
Well done, you. Subtlety and nuance. That's your two
pretty
your
good.
two bywords.
Also minor. Minor.
Also a minor, yeah.
You look like a child is what I'm saying.
Also a minor, yeah.
Scum! Destroy the child.
You're 12 years old is what I'm saying. You're 12.
Some of these are probably older than I am.
Yeah, it's possible.
That one's about as old as me.
Oh.
The 12. Yeah.
Distilled on your birthday.
This is going to be one of your smokier malts. So it's in the same category as the two you just compared. However, it's a lot more briny, salty.
All right, on the nose. How's
This is the first one that they've put out so far that I have not tried personally.
You don't have to like these, by the way.
I'm not a huge fan of like
The malts.
yeah, this, and the smell of this one. I'm not a huge fan of.
Okay,
either.
so
Yeah. What are you smelling?
this reminds me
comparatively?
of Johnny Walker.
Hey, oh, no way! Did you know that whiskey is the dominant mix in Johnny Walker, adding the smoke? The smoke in Johnny Walker is almost always coming from that whiskey.
wow.
Oh.
That's impressive.
And you're not a fan of
Not a huge fan of that.
malty scotches.
Good to know.
Ah.
Now that we know, we've narrowed down a preference he doesn't like.
Right. So this was the Macallan.
Mm-hmm. You're getting that same leathery thing that you're describing as leather and earthy.
Not as bad. That one wasn't as bad as these last two.
We have Macallan at where where I work right now currently. We actually only have two. We have two whiskeys. We've got a High West Rye and a Maker's Mark. But then we also have a Scotch wise. We got the Macallan 12, and we've got the Glenfiddich, and we've got Dewars. So I'm kind of surprised it did say Dewars. But like we have more like wine. We're more of a wine bar currently. We have a lot of enough liquor to make good cocktails. But we don't have a ton of whiskeys. I kind of wish we had more whiskeys. I miss having good whiskeys at work.
That means the sherry cask is muting some of those malty, musty notes that the bourbon cask accents.
What most sherry casks are bringing to whiskeys are going to
I'm gonna need to re-listen to that because I got distracted thinking about whiskey at my work, and now I forgot to pay attention to what they were saying.
Everything that you're describing as leather and earthy,
Not as bad. That one wasn't as bad as these last two.
that means the sherry cask is muting some of those malty, musty notes that the bourbon cask accents.
What most sherry casks are bringing to whiskeys are going to be kind of like your darker, heavier fruits. And that could be covering up the maltiness that you seem to not like in these other ones.
Yeah.
Let's try Elijah Craig next. So
Okay.
we're going back into bourbon, and this is going to be closer to, well, the Buffalo Trace.
This one definitely smells sweeter than the last two, which I
Yeah. Do you like sweets?
Not really.
Do you like salt?
Yes. Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah. That one's probably the sweetest that I've had so far, actually.
Yes, absolutely. Did you
Again, Elijah Craig is one of those that, like, my roommate and I will only get it to put in hot toddies. Like, it's one of those, it's like, oh, well, we got Elijah Craig. Okay, that can go in a hot toddy, and we don't really do too much else with it.
like it the
Yeah,
best?
yeah.
Okay, hold that one here.
So it was
this is
about
like
important.
this and Trace.
Yes, so you're a
Buffalo
bourbon
Trace?
guy.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to do. There's one remaining bourbon that I want you to try, and if you like it, then you've just found the perfect bourbon to explore with because it's cheap.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is, like, it's, you can get a nice bottle of Four Roses for not, it's not that expensive. It's like $38 to $40 usually, which is, again, more than I typically like to spend on, like, the bullet thing that I got is like this big, and it was like $18. So I was like, I will sometimes get a smaller bottle cheaper, but like Four Roses, if I want something that I just really like, Four Roses is the way to go. First time I ever had Four Roses was a couple years back. It was Christmas, and I was staying the night at a friend of mine's place because the next day we were going to our other friend's house on actual Christmas Day to, like, you know, just do Christmas together. We were gonna get there at like noon, so I was like, well, I just went to his place after we were finished with work, and like he introduced me to Four Roses, and I have never looked back.
And it's good. It's considered quality.
This reminds me a lot of the Elijah Craig, quite a bit.
What do you like better? This is your Elijah Craig. Go back to the Elijah Craig.
Yeah, a little AB.
Tell me the difference between those two.
Okay. Kind of maybe
Ooh, that's
intriguing
cool.
some of the.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a little harder to contrast just because I feel like I'm getting mainly ethanol.
Okay.
Out of this one.
That's an interesting
Alright.
point, especially whenever people are getting into just neat pours of spirits. It could be the most complex, nuanced thing in the world. If they're not used to a higher proof, that's
gonna
going to
struggle.
get overwhelmed by the alcohol note.
I always
true.
get slightly darker sweet notes in the Elijah Craig than I do in that Four Roses yellow label.
I mean, I feel like they're so similar. Like
Yes.
really, it's just the proof that's screwed with my
catching
palate.
off.
Yeah. I feel like this one's more like citrus as well, maybe.
Oh, interesting.
And that was still
That's going to be, it's a higher rye mash
That's
bill.
the Four Roses?
Yeah, it's a high, there's more rye in that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it could absolutely have a slight more spicy, zesty kind of note to it.
I think I like this one.
The Four Roses?
This
Ah,
one, yeah.
that's good for you
Yeah.
because you're going to be able to explore that. Now, next steps, maybe not on this episode for you.
Right.
Start trying it with ice. Start trying it adding water, and start trying it mixing it into things.
Yeah.
I do have a little sample of something, Rex,
Yes.
that I snuck.
I hope that he explains about the water. Like, don't just dump a whole bunch of water in there. I hope he does explain that to him. Just let it open it up just a little bit.
Again,
Oh, do you know?
it's not on the list.
Yes.
However,
Is this
it's
payback
to
or something?
determine. No. It's to determine how redneck your roots are.
Oh.
Okay.
Miss Warren.
So this is a moonshine that Deb made
Okay.
using a saison beer.
Hold on.
There's that empty glass on the end. Okay.
It smells like grapes. That's what it smells like.
Interesting. Now I kind of want to smell that thing.
I got
Give
like
me that.
skunky herbs.
Wow, your hands were really close to my face just then. That was
Compose yourself, dude.
that was a slight caress. Yeah, nice work.
Internal monologue for Daniel. It's happening.
I do like a good moonshine. That'll get you. That'll get you done though if it's done right.
I feel like this burns less than
Really?
The Elijah
Daniel
Craig.
Craig and
Yeah, and the
or
Four
Elijah
Roses.
Craig and-
All right.
just a Daniel Craig.
Delicious.
I mean, I actually like
That
this.
was your coffee.
I like this more than.
Wow, he likes saison distilled More than Scotch. Okay, we're gonna go back the other direction and decide whether or not you can stay on with our company or not.
It's a skunky, man. Did you just call me a pussy?
He did just call him a pussy.
So
Bringing in at 117 proof.
I would say I've been drinking a lot of moonshine recently, and by a lot I mean I was not too long ago. I was spending a significant amount of time over at a friend's house, and like his parents had given him like a thing of moonshine, and he just wasn't drinking it. So I like worked my way through that.
Proof.
I think
Let's make it a full 1.5 ounce pour, like you would get at a bar.
There
if
you
said,
go.
pour me a whiskey neat.
cash strength. What do we got?
Woo!
Just did it like a shot.
Maybe I am a.
Okay, go ahead and start editing. We'll make
He just shot that. That's really funny.
it more fun.
All right. That kid was funny. I appreciated him. That was enjoyable. And again, it's like, okay, so I've most of those I had tried, and most of them I think are fine. Again, a lot of them are easy, and like in college, the Jameson was the fancy one, you know. So like Jack and Jim were like the cheap ones that you would drink with a Coke or something, and then Jameson was the one you shot. You did shots of Jameson. And then again, I moved to Chicago, and suddenly it was like the first couple of places I worked didn't have Jameson. They had Tullamore Dew. So I started drinking a lot more Tullamore instead of JMO. So it's like, you know, shot of Tully. Like that's the easiest. And I like it a little bit better than Jameson personally. I think it's a little smoother. I think the original classic Jameson tends to be a little harsh. So if I'm trying to get somebody to drink something that I want them to just drink neat, or if I want them to drink it just on the rocks, like then I will never ever give them just Jameson. I might give them a JMO Black. But I mean, again, usually Four Roses, that's where I tend to like people to start. Another really good, not too expensive, pretty accessible whiskey that's really, really good is Angel's Envy. I really like that. That's kind of been my new thing recently is Angel's Envy, which is just so nice. And if you're looking to get into rye, I like the High West rye. It's a double rye, and that one's really nice. It's not too harsh. It tends to go down pretty smooth. It is a little bit peaty, but like not in such a way that that's the overarching flavor. I really like that one. It's fantastic in an old fashioned, and it's also good just plain. It burns a little less than the Maker's Mark. But anyway, so that's that. Thank you very much for coming with me on my new whiskey tribe journey. I'm having fun with it. I hope to continue to have fun with it, and I feel like I learned something. So, win-win-win. Thanks again. I will see you in the next one. Until then.